Hello and welcome to the Midnight Bible Study. Today's topic is the meaning of life and the decline of Western civilization. John 3:16 reads, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life." According to French philosopher Albert Camus, now some people might call him Camus, others might call him Camel. I'm just saying Albert Camus. That's how I'm going to pronounce his name. I don't speak French. According to French philosopher Albert Camus, he argued that life is meaningless, and this kind of mentality is one of the reasons why Western civilization is in decline. Life is meaningless. That was the philosophy that this guy rests his fame on. Do you realize how useless it is to have a thinker like this as a counselor? Life is meaningless. How does that help anybody? The fact that intellectuals like Camus are taken seriously is indeed one of the reasons why Western civilization is floundering. Take a person like Epstein, who we've heard about in his disgraceful behaviors before his being hung in prison. Epstein could point to someone like Albert Camus and say, it doesn't matter. Life is meaningless. He could, for all I know, he may have studied Camus at some point in his life. I have no idea. Hillary Clinton is accused of a crime, and what's her response? She says, "What difference does it make?" That's a quote. What difference does it make? That's the mentality the ideas of Camus could lead to. That kind of mentality where you just commit a crime and say, "Hey, what difference does it make? Life is meaningless. It means nothing. Nothing." A politician could use that kind of philosophy that life is meaningless. They could send Boris Johnson to the Ukraine to cancel the peace treatment, and therefore justify sending billions of dollars to Ukraine in some kind of money laundering scheme, along with massive amounts of artillery, and then they could lead the Ukraine in a disastrous war where 500,000 Ukrainian boys die, so that now women are being dragged out of cafes and forced into conscription and sent to the front because there's no boys left. There's very few boys left. And the average age of a fighter in Ukraine is 40 years old. They've wiped out an entire generation. But if Camus is right, the politician could say, "Who cares? Life is meaningless. It means nothing to me. I got what I wanted." Do we teach our kids right and wrong in school? For many, the answer is no. We shouldn't do that. After all, in some vague way, they might be followers of Albert Camus. Nothing matters in that case. People walk around like zombies in a science fiction movie. It's actually very sad. You look at San Francisco's violent robberies, an increase in juveniles committing crimes and felonies. There's in 2023, there was an increase of juveniles committing serious crimes and felonies. They just go in and rob stores. They openly rob stores in broad daylight, and they don't even care anymore that they're being watched on camera or anything, because I guess it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Here's a headline from last year. Violent robberies in San Francisco appear to target women. I'm sure these women consider these crimes, when they're victims of crimes, do they consider it to be meaningless? I don't think so. I think they probably are upset by being targeted for crimes. Perhaps the criminals themselves, do they think they're meaningless? Perhaps they probably do think it's meaningless. They may be on drugs. Who knows? I'm sure Albert Camus would say, "Oh, well, he doesn't like that." But ultimately, if that's his attitude, it just means he doesn't understand the power of words and his own philosophy. He may not really understand the consequences of his own philosophy. Here's another headline from 2023. San Francisco bank robbery. Man arrested, accused of 9 robberies in 6 days. I'm sure this guy would agree with Albert Camus. Here's a headline from Portland. Portland records its 93rd homicide in 2022, a new all-time high. If Camus is right, then we should have no pity for these victims. I mean, all the kids who lose a parent, they may be orphans now. We should have no pity for these kids if Camus is right, because life is meaningless. This kind of mentality is one of the reasons why Western civilization is in decline, because these demonic thought patterns, people are buying into them. I mean, I guess if we hear it from a Frenchman, we just are supposed to believe it because he speaks in a French accent. But if life has no meaning, then suffering has no meaning. Now is the time to get prayer back in schools. Before Western civilization declines even more. Let me just finish by quoting James 1:2 from the Bible. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test of time, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. God bless you, and good night from the Midnight Bible Study.